Alright guys, welcome to another deck profile. This time is an updated Dark Magician deck. I really like this deck for obvious reasons, nostalgia, Yugi, and it's actually not too bad. So with that out of the way, I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and let's jump right into this. Starting off, we have 3 of the classic Dark Magician. So I know the normal run is 2 of these guys. Actually, let me do this. This will look a little cooler. So I know typically it's 2 of these guys for anti-clogging or anti-bricking, but 3 really isn't all that bad. I run 3 because I also run Magicalized Fusion, and if one of the Dark Magicians gets banished, it can be kind of a problem. And yeah, I just personally like 3, but in future builds I may try building with 2 just to see how it runs and if I like it any better. I just always run it at 3, and I've never really run into a problem, at least in this build. My previous build that you guys saw wasn't too great because that was when Dark Magician cards were very expensive and this deck had basically nothing. This deck is much, much better, and it can work with 3 a lot more consistently. So yeah, if you have only been trying 2, I actually do recommend at least giving 3 a shot. 1 Dark Magician Girl just for plays and various other things. Normally you would use Magician Souls with this. There's a couple other things that you can do. Essentially you just send this to the grave to bring out Dark Souls, or not Dark Souls, Magician Souls, and do that whole play. And I play this artwork just because it's my favorite. Double Apprentice Illusion Magician. I know this is also typically a one of, but this is also a hand trap, and it also works on the field. I feel like a lot of people forget that. Yeah, this is just overall a really good card. It has a lot to benefit the deck. You can bring out a free, not really a free, but you can bring out a 2000 6-star beat stick. I know that's not too amazing, but in this deck you can actually do quite a decent amount of things, and you can tribute her to make any of your magicians gain 2000 attack, or you can just send her straight from your hand. Either way, honestly, 2 is not bad at all, and I really think you guys should give this a try at 2. Moving on, Double Illusion of Chaos. I thought about playing this at 3, but the deck, it's already pretty tight. There's a couple things I want to switch out eventually, but honestly, 2 works very well, especially with searching, and it typically ends up in your hand. But I may end up running 3, honestly, because this is such a good card, but I also don't want to see more than 1 of this in my hand, and I feel like at 3 this will get super cloggy, and I won't really have a use for it. But for now, 2 is alright. 1 Palladium Oracle Magician. This card, if, what is it called? Soul Servant didn't exist. This card would not be in the deck because you need to really draw it for it to be effective. And if you have it in your hand, sucks to suck, it's a dead draw. But with Soul Servant, this guy actually becomes very liable. And when he fights dark monsters, which there's a lot of dark stuff out there, he becomes a 5k beat stick. So honestly, with that being said, I think he's a great addition to the deck. 1 Timaeus, the United Dragon. This is essentially to get free fusions out and to go into some of your Magician and Dragon fusions. Honestly, thought about running him at 2, but he is a little cloggy, but overall it's actually a really good card for the deck. 1 Keeper of Magic Magician. This is to search out polymerization and the such. This guy, he also helps you get out your Dragon and Magician fusions. If there were to be anything that I would cut for another Timaeus, it'd probably be this guy. But honestly, this guy does a lot, and having almost free access to a poly and being able to do multiple different things is not bad at all. And especially when if you have a Magician on the field, bring this guy out, search for a poly, and then you can fuse to bring out one of your Dragon fusions and then not waste your Timaeus. That's actually really nice. So yeah, I think you should give this guy a try. I might actually bump him up to 2 or 3. Bistro Baldrake. I want to play more Bistrals, but again, this deck is a little tight, and I really wanted to play a Bistral, and I felt like this was one of the better options to play it by itself. Just a small little engine for the card. I wouldn't even really call this an engine because it's 1 card, but still, this does do a lot. There's all dark and lights in the deck, and he's also a dragon, so there's that. He's at level 6, so if you wanted to play rank 6 cards, you could, or, you know, there's a lot of things that you could use this guy for. And if you want to play a bigger Bishop package, no blame to you. I completely understand. I might even play a bigger bishop package. I just want more Dark Magician cards in the deck. Triple Magician's Rod. This is the main searcher of the deck. Essentially, this searches out any Dark Magician spell or trap card, and there's a lot of those in the deck. And what he also does is, if he's in the graveyard, you contribute a spellcaster and add it back to your hand. So that's actually really good to keep getting searches and recycling that, and it can really help you out in the grind game and just overall setting up an established board. One Chocolate Magician Girl. I run this because it's the Lost Art, and I just generally like this card. Honestly, it's not that bad either. The only thing I will say is the water attribute is really kind of jack for this deck. If it was dark, it would have been significantly better. Just being a level 4 spellcaster is good for the deck, and you can discard a spellcaster to draw a card. So if you have Dark Magician in your hand, or even 2, and it's a clog, you can ditch it and draw another card and continue plays that way. And when this card is targeted for an attack, you can special summon a spellcaster from the graveyard and switch the target to that. So if they attack this with a low enough monster, you can just special summon your Dark Magician or any spellcaster that's in your graveyard, and they're going to have to attack in that anyway. So if you have like a 3k beat stick in your graveyard by chance, you can bring it out and they just lost their monster. So I think this card is really underrated, and you should really give it a try. That's it for the monsters. I know no Magician Souls, it's because that card is still very expensive. But once that card comes down a little bit, it will definitely be getting added to this deck. For spell cards, we run one Dark Magical Circle. You can search this, and if you lose it, it's honestly not that bad. It's just a banish for when Dark Magician comes out, and it's a search when it's activated. You can search this with, Magician's Rod. And yeah, you don't really need 2 of this. I thought about running 2, but honestly, it's not that big of a game changer, so 1 is fine. One Soul Servant. I know this card isn't that expensive. I just haven't been able to get my hands on 2 other copies yet, but this is definitely going to be getting bumped up to 2 or 3. This is just 1 because it's all I have for right now, but I would definitely run this guy at 3. One Bond between teacher and student. I simply run this to make up for the lack of Magician Souls and Soul Servants. This is just to kind of pick up the slack a little bit and get your Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl out in the field together. One Polymerization. This is to get your fusions out. I'm probably going to bump this up to 2 just because to have a little bit more easy access to fusion monsters. Secrets of the Dark Magic. You can use this to ritual summon out your Illusion of Chaos if you really want to, or a Magician of Chaos if you run that. I thought about running that because it is a half-decent card, but the deck is kind of bricky enough. This is also probably going to get bumped up to 2 because this can also be used as a fusion, and I just feel like the deck needs more fusion cards, honestly, at least this build. One Magicalized Fusion. This is sticking at 1. This is for a card that you'll see in the extra deck. You can use this for other things, and if it's use this or lose, I would. But honestly, I try to wait for this to bring out the really big boss monster of the deck. But yeah, definitely run at least one of these. Double Fusion Deployment. This is also to help pick up the slack of the no Magician Souls and only 1 Soul Servant. But honestly, with them, I think this card is really, really good. Because personally, I fusion summon mostly with this deck. I feel like that's where they're trying to go with Dark Magician. And this guy just brings out a free fusion material. So, yeah, I don't know why more people aren't playing this. 2 Secret Village of the Spellcasters. This is a great floodgate for the deck because it's all spellcasters in the deck. And there's not too many spellcaster decks running out there. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend running this because, like, it can really shut down a deck. I don't know if Runic plays spellcasters or not. I'd have to look into that. I don't know too much about Runics. I just know they're a pain in the butt and they like to play on your turn. That's all I really know, and I feel like this could shut that down. But yeah, there's just not too many Runics in my area, and so I haven't bothered looking into them. I definitely will for more YouTube info though. But yeah, 2 secret villages. Definitely recommend 2 of them. 1 Magician Salvation. Don't need more than this. You can search it with Rod. This just brings out whatever Magician you don't have on the field. If you have Dark Magician, it'll bring out Magician Girl. If you have Magician Girl, it'll bring out Dark Magician. And this also sets a the trap card, the Eternal Soul. This sets an Eternal Soul from your deck straight to the field, so that can be really helpful. But yeah, you don't need more than 1. Upstart Goblin, because it's a free draw. Makes the deck a 39 card deck. Your opponent's not going to stop this because it's a 3,000 life points to them. But little they know, that could be the game changer. One Reborn. This might get cut for a Souls or a Servant, just because I feel like it's a little bit better. But yeah, this guy can bring back some really powerful monsters if your opponent gets over Dragoon, or if your opponent has a really strong monster in the graveyard. I feel like a lot of people forget about the fact that you can bring back an opponent's monster. That's pretty broken. So if you run over something that's really hard to get over, and then you just monster reborn it, now your opponent not only do they have to deal with your monster, but they have to deal with their monster. And that could be the difference between going for game too, you know? This card could either be a win more card, or just a simply win card. But yeah, it's not too bad, and I think you should at least give it a try. Moving on to traps, we have Double Eternal Soul. Unlike the Circle, this card actually is pretty important. It helps you recycle Dark Magicians and bring one back each turn. The only downside is if it's destroyed, all your monsters are destroyed. But that doesn't really happen too often, and there is built-in protection in the deck to try and prevent that. So yeah, I would recommend this at 2. I tried it at 1, and I did not like that whatsoever. It didn't see it enough. If it got over, I was just kind of done. I didn't have a way of bringing it back. So yeah, I would definitely recommend running at least 2 of these guys. I think 3 is a little too cloggy. I think 2 is just right. Triple Skill Drain. This is essentially to just turn both decks into beat stick decks, because you can still bring out a lot of your monsters from your hand just using their effects, because they activate in hand or in graveyard. But this shuts down a lot of decks that are field activated, and this is really good against Dragon Link and Flow Wonder Ease, or Flu Wonder Ease, whatever. Yeah, this is a great card overall for lots and lots of decks. Even some road decks. Like I have a Karibo deck that has a lot of stall stuff in it. If you guys want to, you can go check that out. This is good against that because it deactivates Fossil Dyna Pacquiao, whatever his name is, and lets you play more. So yeah, this is an overall really good card, and I think every Dark Magician deck should run this, especially now that it's been reprinted in common and pretty readily available. Double Solemn Strike. This is just kind of telling my opponent no. You can really have, sometimes you can have like a small field and you have a lot of traps. So the deck can kind of be a little slow to build up and have an established field. So these trap cards are essentially to kind of safeguard you until you can get your field established in case you do break or any of the such. These are just really good say no cards. So yeah, definitely recommend running Solemn Strike. I run 2 D barriers, 1 evenly matched, and 1 Ice Dragon's Prison to round out the extra deck. Honestly, I thought about, not the extra deck, the trap cards. Sorry, that's my cat scratching the mat. So anyway, I'm thinking about either dropping a D barrier, or even dropping both D barriers and adding in an extra evenly matched and Ice Dragon's Prison. I thought about dropping Ice Dragon's Prison for 2 evenly matches. I thought about dropping Dimensional Barrier for 2 evenly matches and 2 Ice Prisons. I thought about just 3 evenly matches. There's a lot of different setups you can do with these track cards, but these track cards are actually really good, and I would recommend running some kind of setup with this. I may end up cutting some trap cards like Ice Dragon's Prison or D Barrier for Magician Souls and maybe Soul Servant. But yeah, for now, I think these guys are actually really good cards. And this honestly isn't too bad of a setup, having these 4. Even just 1 and 1 and 2, because they all do really good things. So if you get any of these 4 trap cards, you can actually do some pretty established things. But overall, I think evenly matched is the best one. So I would probably bump this up to 3, and that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. I just don't know how I'm going to do it yet, whether if I want to get rid of the 2 D barriers or if I want to get rid of the Ice Dragon Prison and a D barrier. But yeah, so moving on to the extra deck, that wraps up the main deck. Starting off with links, we have 1 I'm Duke, the World Chalice Dragon. This is just for your Dark Magician to bring a dragon out in the field and go into some of your fusions a little bit easier. But he doesn't get brought out too often, if I'm going to be honest, so he might end up getting cut if there's something better I can go for. 1 Artemis. This is to essentially go in with your Magician's Rod, so you can try and bring it back next turn. And yeah, this just opens up more plays. 1 Celine, because again, this opens up more plays. She's another spellcaster. Nothing much to say there. That's all I run for links. I probably am going to add Access Code Talker or a Borrowed Dragon. Borrowed Sword Dragon, my bad. I just don't have access code talker right now, and I think Boral Sword doesn't do a whole lot for the deck. But I might end up cutting something for Boral Sword in the meantime, just because I feel like this deck could really benefit from a bigger Link monster. Moving on to Exceeds, we have one Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. This is essentially to burn your opponent whenever they breathe. It doesn't have too huge of an attack, but it's big enough. One Ebon High Magician. I only run this because my friend gave it to me. And I think that's pretty cool to run cards that my friends gave me, but honestly, it's not too good of a card. One of these two guys might get cut for that Boral Sword, like I said. One Ebon Illusion Magician. I actually do recommend running one of these guys. This guy is pretty good. He can, I think one of these guys can summon. So what Ebon High Magician does is, if he has material, you can detach one from him and activate a quick play spell card or a trap card from your hand on your opponent's turn. So that's actually not too bad. And then if it's destroyed in any way by your opponent, whether it's monster or spell or trap, he can special summon a dark spellcaster type monster from your hand or deck, so that's pretty solid. And then Ebon Illusion Magician, you can also go into it using a rank 6 Exceed monster. So if we had Magi Magician or Magi Girl, I think is her name, you could go into that and then go into Ebon Illusion Magician, but we're probably never going to get that card. And yeah, every time you can detach a material from this and special summon a dark normal spellcaster monster from your deck. So that's pretty solid. And then every time that your normal spellcaster monster attacks, you can target one card and banish it. So honestly, they're not too bad of cards, but I feel like Boral Sword might come in a little bit more handy. Moving on to fusions, we have one Mud Dragon of the Swamp. You can use Super Poly for this. I don't really have a side deck to go with this. They're usually pretty generic, but I would definitely add a Super Poly into this. Any deck that has access to lots of fusions, I would definitely add a Super Poly into. But yeah, this guy is just to fuse 2 of your monsters to get a fusion on the field or a Super Poly target. One, I don't know how to say his name, Garura, Wings of Resonant Life. This guy just doubles battle damage he does to your opponent. And yeah, he's just kind of to get a dark fusion on the field for your other fusions. One Starving Venom, what's that, Power Fusion Dragon. He is essentially just a 3600 beater for the deck, and he just needs 2 dark fusion monsters. So that's another reason I want to add more fusion cards to the deck, is because if you don't have Timaeus and you only have to rely off your poly cards, there's a lot of fusions in this deck that require more fusions. So yeah, I think polymerization and I think having a Dark Magician specific fusion card would also be really dope. Anyway, yeah, these are just generic fusions. These are essentially to try and bring him and other fusions out, and he is just a secret big boss monster if you can bring him out. One, the Dark Magicians. This is staple. Essentially, it's just it combines Dark Magician Girl into a slightly stronger monster. And then if it's destroyed, you can special summon both of them. One Master of Chaos. There's a cool OTK with this. You can tribute a light and dark monster you control and banish all of your opponent's monsters, and then you just have your monsters left. So I have him in here to be able to fusion off Illusion of Chaos if I need to. He is actually, I think he's also a really cool monster, and yeah, I recommend at least giving him a try. One Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. This is that built-in protection for Eternal Soul. It's a 3000 beat stick. It becomes Dark Magician while it's on the field, and it's Dark Magician riding Timaeus. I think that's freaking cool. One Dark Cavalry. This will definitely get cut for the Boral Sword if I decide to do that. I would like to run this because he has a lot of potential. I just need a warrior monster that will fit in the deck to be able to play him. I thought about trying to find a Link monster that would do the job. Maybe cutting out Mud Dragon or something. But yeah, I would like to find a way to run him. But sorry. But yeah, I would definitely, if you don't have any warriors in the deck, cut this for a Boral Sword and access code if you have it. One Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. You could even cut it for a second one of these guys. I just don't like to be hacksy, and I only run the one. And to round things off, one Quintet Magician. This is what I like to use that Magical Eyes Fusion for. If I have 5 different spellcasters in the graveyard, play that, and now you have a 4500 beat stick. And his effect reads, must be fusion summoned. If this card is fusion summoned using 5 spellcaster monsters with different names, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. This face-up card on the field cannot be tributed nor used for fusion material. Also, it cannot be destroyed by card effects. So that's pretty solid. If you use all 5 different monsters, destroys your opponent's monsters, can't be destroyed by card effects, 4500 beat stick, he can keep up with, pretty much the best of the best for the most part. So yeah, this was my updated Dark Magician deck profile. If you guys have anything that you want to add, let me know. Again, I understand Dark Magician or Magician Souls and Soul Servants would make the deck better, but alas, I don't have those, and I made the deck for what I have. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next one.